they can't have got along well with how hard they were hitting each other and teeing each other up.
And he showed up, and I swear it felt like Jesus showed up. Just seeing him, I was just like, whoa.
If I didn't get Instagram, I probably would have carried on winning, I think. What's happening, guys? It's episode 7 of Against the Rut, and this week it's just me and Dean because Billy, as always, has been a mess, can't organise his life, so cancelled last minute, but we're back. Before we get started, what's happening, Dean? How you been, mate?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Just us two. We've lost Billy, but hey, we'll make it work. We'll put Billy on our back and carry him like we do every episode, you know what I mean? But no, not much, mate. Just riding, training. Things are going good. We got 5 days till Melbourne Supercross, which will be good. So feeling good. Yeah, just been on a good path riding, and just still out here in Oz. Got the Lawrence brothers coming for what is that, round 4 that we're coming up to. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, round 4. So it's gonna make things a bit tougher for me. But
yeah, that will be quite nice though, a little bit of a battle. But how does that work? So they're coming out, but isn't it one of the rounds is an Oz Championship and one of the rounds is international, or are they just joining in the Oz Championship?
yeah, no, so they're just joining in on the Oz Championship. So it's round 4. They'll just jump in for round 4. Yeah, the OzX Open is the biggest one. It's in Marvel Stadium. It's about, last year they had 42,000 people, and they're looking like it's going to hit that again. So it's the biggest one. It's a bit like how Paris Supercross is, right? That I'm pretty sure Paris Supercross is part of the French Championship, but
Yeah.
Paris is the big one. So it's the same here. Yeah, Lawrence boys are coming up. Just the Lawrence boys. Yeah, it'll be good. We'll see how it goes. I've won every race so far, 6 for 6. And I mean, it'd be a very, very big ask to try and beat those boys. So a win would be 3rd, but not my bonus. My bonus money says different. It'd be 3rd place. So they're coming over and taking my money, mate. But you never know. Hey, you never know what can happen. You never know.
No, I think with how you've been going, and are they on stock engines? I just read they're using stock engines in Paris.
I'm pretty sure they're on stock engines, and it's 10 lap. Maybe if we can shuffle them in the back, bad start, and who knows. But
last year you almost beat Hunter. It just popped up on Instagram. You had a race last year where you almost won.
Had him the last main event. I almost had him. I spun out in a corner, and then he got me like 3 corners to go. But it'll be tough to beat them. But just give it my best go. See how it goes. No, all's good. I'm feeling good. I had a good day today, Tom. I woke up, I did a good spin, bit of core, went to the track. Good day at the track. Did a bit of Tommy afterwards. Went to the recovery center. Sauna, cold plunge, back in the sauna, back in the cold plunge, and then I went from cold plunge to the hot bath. So yeah, feeling good.
Oh, you're really on fire then? Yeah,
well, my mate owns the recovery center, and we rode his track today. So I was like, it was a good day out. Nice cup of
It did
coffee.
look a nice track you rode. I just caught up on that on the story.
It was good. What's happening with you? What's the haps?
It's actually my wife's birthday today, so we're going to London this weekend. So a trip out this weekend, just dropped the kids off at school. Jumped on here for a bit, but I rode a couple of enduro days. We had a big trip out last week.
Seen that.
Really good, actually. I quite enjoy that lately. I didn't used to as much, but now I'm getting a little bit older.
No, it's definitely
the whole concept of a boys' day out.
As we get older, it's what we start to dive into, isn't it?
It's actually really good. I think we mentioned it on last episode, but it's a really good day out. Rain for the majority. Rode for a little bit, couple of hours, stopped, had lunch, couple of hours on the way home. Bill wheelied into my bike. Again, just there's something wrong with him, and smashed my fuel tank when we're 15 miles away from home. So we're now stranded, and my bike don't go anywhere. So he stayed with me. The other boys rode back. We pushed my bike to the main road, then got picked up, which was a 30-minute drive because it was all back roads to Ed Dunn. So Ed went back with the group, loaded up the van, come and picked us up, and then we went from there home.
Did you get angry?
No, I was actually quite calm, calm in that situation. But we had a good day regardless. And that's it, really. I took the little one out for a ride this weekend at Edge Track because everywhere's been so wet in England. But managed to ride at Ed's and on the offset a little bit. Actually ran the Supercross track, arena cross practice for Alf at the weekend.
Oh, there we go. I like it. All right, so we're diving into this. And this question is, what is your favorite moment in your career, but it doesn't involve winning? So what is something that's on the top of your head that really rung a bell that was just your favorite in your career? that didn't involve winning.
Favorite, it's hard to think of at the minute. I can't actually think of anything. There's a lot of moments that I can think that I didn't like that are memorable and things went wrong, but actually things that I did like, I can't think of. So you go first with this one
You
while
want
I
me to
have a
go
think.
first? All right. So I have a favorite moment. Mentioned this quite a few times in the other episodes, but this is something that really sticks out to me. And that was when I tore my ACL both years at Factory KTM. I raced as a privateer. I never got picked up by another team. And it was a very pivotal moment in my career because it was either I make this happen and make this my career, or I'm going to go swing a hammer. So I really did everything I could to just climb my way back. And I did everything. And I done well. We got some Yamahas, a little bit of support, and did the first 3 rounds, I believe. Anaheim 1 and San Diego and some, I think maybe Anaheim 2. And anyways, I got the phone call from Bobby Hewitt at Husqvarna to race for a factory Husky. So I climbed my way back onto a factory team. And I tell you what, that phone call from Bobby was just one of the, like, it was just one of those things that you really worked hard for it. And it was just the most, like, I don't even know the word, but I just felt so rewarded from that. And that's something that will always stick out to me because that grew into 6 years at Husqvarna. But I really had to climb my way out of a big hole for being injured, losing my factory KTM ride, not even knowing if I could keep racing as a living. So it's just something I'm very proud of because I fought for it. And that is just one of my favorite moments.
For me, it's difficult. I never had that, like, almost losing something and then gaining something like massive in my career. It almost slowly just sort of petered off and was always
Yeah.
trying to get back and then trying to get back. But it almost, once it started going down, it didn't really pop back up to the top. So just nothing that I can think
Yeah,
of for
but
me
your
personally.
career, like you like went till you were on good teams till like 30, in your 30s. Like you're really at that point, it's not, you're not gonna,
No, it was
I
time. Like,
was, yeah, exactly. I was in my 20s and I still
yeah,
had a good 8 years ahead of me. So, but when you're in your 30s, it is a bit different, but yeah,
no,
that's
you can. I remember Barsha was very similar to you in the way he done it. I remember him
mhm,
going privateer for a few. Maybe he didn't race to start the season, but the off season he went privateer and done Monster Cup, didn't he, that year?
mhm, mhm.
And then both of you then just went on, and he's still going, and you're still going. So different to mine, but yeah, still good regardless. All right, considering I haven't got one of myself that I can think of a favourable moment, what about one that didn't involve you at all that you've watched in part of the sport over time, or sort of changed the way you looked at the sport as a kid, or something that you just look back and you think, I remember that so vividly watching it at that time?
That's a good one. That's a good one. Growing up as a kid, Jeremy McGrath was just the king. He was my idol and he just changed the sport. He was flashy. He was fast. He was winning. He was in TV commercials. He was just the man. And I always remember when I was a kid and I was at Elsinore. And this is before social media and, cell phones, all that. And we're at probably 1999, 2000. So he was still peak McGrath and he showed up. And I swear it felt like Jesus showed up. Just seeing him, I was just like, whoa. And he was just so cool. He's doing knacks over the big jumps and just the fans people are just hovering around him. And it was so cool. He would just rock up to Elsinore. That was something that I'll always remember. He set that mark that, like, for me, like, I want to do that. I want to be like that. That's one of them. And then I have 3. Next one is James Stewart. He comes in. I remember I was at his first ever Supercross, 2002, Anaheim 1. Pink gear. Comes in, pink gear. And I think he was the first, maybe not the first, because there was some old school Wolf Sport pink gear, wasn't there, like back in the day?
And
But anyways,
JT,
right. So he's got the pink gear on, and he is just, oh man, everyone knows how good James was. And it was just amazing to watch. Amazing. Doing things that no one else would do. And he's on his 1.252 stroke. And he actually didn't win his first race. Travis Preston won it. He fell. Obviously, we've seen what he became, but he was just, I guess, innovation to the sport, right? He did things that no one else done. It's just amazing to watch. Amazing. And my third one that sticks in my head would be Stefan Everts. I watched him a lot. And when I lived in the States, I still do live in the States, earlier on, like in the early 2000s, I would say, or like 2000 to 2010, I don't feel like a lot of Americans tuned in to the GPs like they do now. And I remember I was watching Everts, and he was just unbelievable, and it was, better than anybody, just standing up on the pegs, looks like he's barely trying, winning by huge margins. And I always remembered, like, I would try, I'm sure a lot of people did, but I would try and mimic his style standing up. And that's something that I really kind of tried to mimic, was him standing around the corners and stuff. And then I'd also mimic Ryan Filippoto. I would try and combine the both, because I loved when Ryan Filippoto would like really like get traction on the rear wheel. So those were two things. I'd stand up around the turns like Everett, and then like hit everything kind of like RV, but obviously I was a taller, lankier version. But yeah, I mean, Everett was just, I used to watch tapes for days of him and study him. And so those three are definitely, as I'll always remember, racing, and that left a mark on me forever that I'll always remember.
One thing whilst you're on that topic of Everts, do you remember when he done the race, that Motocross of Nations at Matley Base, and James Stewart came over and Stefan went round the outside on the foot
Yeah,
pegs?
legendary clip. Yeah.
I think that's one that.
Did you race that?
Yeah, that was my first ever Motocross of Nations.
What were you, 15, 16 years old?
I would have just been 16, yeah. 16 and a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was probably.
I mean,
go on.
no, sorry. Yeah, no, I remember that. That's something I'll always remember. And I remember there's a bit of build up before that race as well, wasn't there? Like Bubba and Everts, and same thing. Everts looked like he was just trail riding around the track, and no, it was pretty.
Yeah, there was like beef. I don't know. There seemed to be like beef between them, because
there was
then
a bit of beef. I do remember that. Yeah.
I don't really know why, but I remember Stefan winning both races, which was his last ever race, last ever professional race. He still won the world championship. I think he almost won 15 out of 16 rounds, almost had a perfect season, other than Josh Coppins beat him in one moto, I think. Then he went to Motocross of Nations, went 1-1. And I think the beef was at the time that, because I remember listening to the press conference, and Stewart had said he raced for the team, so he didn't want to do anything silly and crash. Whereas Stefan then said, like, it's a shame that he couldn't.
Remember
it's
that.
a shame he didn't want to win the race.
Yeah, yeah.
So there was a bit of beef. And then Stefan Everts actually retired after that. So absolutely mad when you think about his career. And then he's literally gone almost undefeated, and then beat the best in the world at Motocross of Nations, and then just hung the boots up and done.
Yeah.
Literally insane.
Pretty legendary. What about, a bit off topic, but I could be wrong here, but I remember when Team USA used to show up to the Nations, and it would be like, this is more Carmichael era, but it would be like, I just remember the little van with Team USA on it, and like, it was like, just they're hovering, like, it was insane. Like, it was like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it was just like God showed up, and everyone's sweating. There's so much hype, and there was just like some energy around that when Team USA would show up. And I don't know if it's the same anymore. I don't know if it's social media or what, but there was something about, like, it was just like really cool back then when they showed up.
This is actually one of my stories that I was going to get to. In 2004, I think it was my first ever Motocross of Nations that I went to watch. Because as a kid, I didn't watch actually many races at all, but it was Zolder in Belgium, I'm pretty sure. Holland and Belgium, obviously very close together. I'm pretty sure it was Belgium, Zolder. And
Wait, I'm going to jump in. Was that the track that had like a set of like Supercross whoops?
Yeah.
Random like Supercross whoops?
It was
Carmichael
sand track, but it had on a road race, but it had a little set of whoops at the top.
And Carmichael was on his two-stroke, right?
Yeah.
1 to 250?
Yeah, I believe so. This is my first ever time. Obviously, we've played. I didn't watch that many races as a kid. Had a few DVDs. You couldn't get access like you can now to YouTube and that. But I'd watched and played Ricky Carmichael 2002 or whatever. So we drove out to this race in Zolder. And I remember first lap, everyone has come around. They're all sizing up this big finish jump. Massive it was. They'd go across the road race. Sand was on top of it. Huge finish, step up, tabletop thing. And first lap round, everyone's airing it out, like just bolt up right, stay there in this jump. And Carmichael comes around at the back of the field, because he's obviously let everyone go off the start, cruising round, jumps this jump, double can, first lap. And I don't remember that much of as a kid of racing, but this, I just was like, I can't believe what he's just done. And I'm pretty sure he was on a 2-stroke that year. You had Ryan Hughes as his teammate, and him and Everts battled that year. I think Carmichael won, but don't hold me to that.
I think he
but
did.
Watching that as a kid, I would have been probably 13 or 14. And I just was like, could not believe it, just double canned it on the first lap round over the biggest jump on the track. And it was sand, it was wet, there was already ruts up the face, and yet just double can and
setting the tone. When you said finish line jump, I remember being a kid, I want to say 07, was it Donington Park? Wasn't the finish line there like massive?
Yeah, big jump.
Because I remember watching
GP,
and like they were just, it looked so big, the finish line there.
It was massive. That was my first ever GP win.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, and I done a whip off it on the final lap and then landed to flat, nearly blew both arms and both feet out. Just come round so excited and then just done this massive whip and then literally just landed to flat.
That's good, isn't it? First ever GP win in the homeland.
So I actually got first ever podium the year before in Matterley Basin, and that was the year of Nations that we just talked about with Everts going around the outside of Stewart, and then the following year, first ever win at Donington Park, which was only 10 minutes from where I lived at the time.
Did well with the home crowd. And then I remember you got a few 1-1s at Matterley, like 2011, 12.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I like that pressure situation.
Yeah,
I did actually. I like Nations and I like home GPs, but I did have another memory that I thought of. Another one was Ernay. I went to Ernay Motocross of Nations and watching Townley and Ricky Carmichael and seeing the Team USA win that weekend and how big the crowd was there. That was a big moment to see, because I remember just thinking, wow, this is absolutely insane. And it actually happened that the following year I raced it, but I was just literally a kid riding around on a couple of passes that we'd got from somewhere, mini bikes around the paddock that we shouldn't have been on. Literally just a kid riding around this thing, taking it all in, just could not believe what I was watching. So I don't really remember watching Supercross as a kid. I actually never went to watch a World Championship race before I raced my first World Championship.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. That is an unbelievable stat.
Yeah,
that's like me saying I've never watched the Supercross in real life. I just showed up. That is unbelievable. But for the viewers watching, I always give Tommy a hard time because these subjects that we have, he never watched a lot of motocross as a kid. Like for me, I watched a lot. Like that's all I did. I was glued to the TV watching all the races and that. And I still do. And Tommy never really did that. Well, he did, but not much. So it's quite funny.
But your dad liked motocross, where my dad knew nothing about motocross.
Right. That makes a big
difference. We got a motocross bike. My dad never had really, he just knew nothing about bikes. He got this bike and it was just, he knew zero. And we just went racing. So he had no interest in like these riders. He had no interest to go watch these events. The only interest he had in it was just me going riding and taking us as a family racing each weekend. So to then turn up at these races, and even when I ask my dad now or people talk to my dad, he still has zero idea about half the any rider before that I raced against. Like, it just goes straight off the top of his head.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas you were obviously into it a little bit more.
All right, Tommy, so let's go over each rider from the decades. Who ruled the decade? I don't think you're going to be very good at this. So if you don't know, just say skip. 1980, who was the boy back then?
This is literally going to be a guess, and not even a good guess. So I'm really, really bad at this. So 1980s.
Really bad. Just spit something out for us.
Bob Hanna.
I knew you were going to say that. Okay, I'm going to say Rick Johnson, the bad boy.
So I did have it in the right era.
I think Hanna might have been more 70s, but I think he might have been 80s too. I mean, same as you. I'm not great, but I'm going to say Rick Johnson, or David Bailey was unreal too. Can't forget David Bailey. There was a Jeff Ward, bunch of legends there. All right, let's move on to the 90s. This one is the easiest. Go ahead.
I mean, you're going to say Jeremy McGrath. Think from the 90s. I want to say a World Championship rider. So I'm just trying to think. Stefan Everts was 90s, Sebastian Tortelli. So an actual battle that I remember in the 90s would have been Sebastian Tortelli or Stefan Everts. So I'm going to go with either of those because I had the Duke. There was a series that come out in Europe. The DVD's called Duke. And I remember watching those. And I'm pretty sure that was Sebastian Tortelli and Stefan Everts.
2010, 2000s, I should say.
2000s for me would be very different to you because I wasn't really watching Supercross. If I go to what I was watching throughout the World Championships, would have been Josh Cottins, Stefan Everts, and even the one that I looked up to at the time because I'd go riding and training with, which is Carl Nunn, who was a local rider. Well, not local, like 2 hours away from me, but he would be one that I would look up to because I'd see at the tracks.
Okay.
He didn't like
For that
rule the
one-
90s, but he's the guy that I would think ruled the 2000s.
That's fine. I mean, this one's obviously James Stewart for me, Ricky Carmichael. All right. So then we move on. 2010 to 2020. Who we got?
Dean Wilson. He
Who
ruled
else would
that
there
era.
be? Who else
No
would there
one.
be?
2010 kicked it off, and
Yeah. First win. No, that wasn't my first win.
was that 10 or 11?
I won both years, but 10 there was my first one.
The
so
one
that
through
was
the
cool.
waves.
That was 2011.
Okay, that's the most
2011.
memorable one for me.
See, you're such a good mate. You're a good mate. Mine is, I mean, obviously.
Well, you
Tommy.
post it up on Instagram once a year, twice a year.
Usually I'll do. Been trying to back off a little bit on that clip, so maybe I'll post it next year. Save it for next year.
I've done that now. For a few years, I'd do throwback. GP had come around, I'd post a picture when I won the GP, and now
I know. It's like you don't want to be that guy living in the past. All right.
No, I mean, I've gained no followers in the last 10 years, so they've all seen that pic now.
Yeah. So this 2010, 2020, actually, who ruled then actually gets a bit trickier because over here in the States, we had Dungey. Can't forget about Dungey. You had the RV era, which was unreal. And Stewart was still good. I mean, Dungey's someone that was unbelievable, you know?
Yeah, but we can pick this apart now more because we know this era.
It's all right.
We race through it. So then we remember the battles and the people, and then almost like, well, he went underrated and he's like, he should be up there. Whereas the other eras, we have one guy that sticks or two guys that stick into mind. And now,
exactly.
Which other people will have, the older guys will have that same mindset for those eras. So it'd be nice to hear from some of the older guys in the comments something that actually stuck out in their mind and their best race or their most memorable race as a kid throughout those 80s, 90s, 2000s.
Yeah. All right, last one, 2020 till now. I'm just going to jump in on my side. It's hard. We're supposed to pick one person, but it's hard because you're going to have to go, obviously, Jett, and then you cannot forget about how much Tomac's done as well, right? So those are my two.
I will go in Europe, and then I need to go back to 2010s actually for Europe, and that'd be Caroli. He was the man. And then 2020s, obviously you've got Jett, but then in Europe, Tim Geiser really, Jeffrey Hurlins throughout that time. They're the two that would stand out to mine. Not so like off the bat, but just out of sheer knowing what they've done, you can't put them. You can't count them, or they are the men of that generation. Yeah,
I agree. I completely agree with that. It's actually unbelievable that Caroli still goes out there and battles. It's impressive. Impressive.
It's really unbelievable what Caroli does still to this day. Like, obviously we're getting older, but then seeing him, you're still attached to that a little bit more, and you can jump in to go ride a Supercross, or if you really wanted to, you don't really, but you could go do a national and feel somewhat comfortable. But now the thought of me going to do an MXGP or an AMA national, knowing where I'm at, seems very far-fetched. Like, I wouldn't want to put myself in that situation. Obviously, he's 9-time world champion. He's the best to ever do it.
Not had a lot of injuries either in his career.
You'll be surprised. He's had a fair few little ones. He suffers with niggles like you do when you get older. But for him to even want to put himself in that situation just shows you how much of a racer he truly is, that he just loves to race. But rivalries, if we go back through that subject, if we go back over that and then talk about the rivalries, I think that's one thing that stands out a little bit more to me than one rider.
What's a rivalry that sticks out to you then? What got you excited?
Rivalry.
I'm jumping in before you say it because I can't hold it.
Go on.
Everts and Tortelli.
I just told you this one, but I was going to bring it up again because it's the only one that comes to mind. But I don't know in America if you would have seen that. Would you? Was you following that?
Mel Pocock and Tommy and Jeffrey Hurlins.
Jeffrey Hurlins. No, but in America, would you have seen the rivalry between Everts and Tortelli that year?
I did, because I just paid attention and watched it, but I don't think a lot of people would. But kind of explain to the people that rivalry because I remember watching as a kid, and Tortelli was just not afraid to bang bars. Was he? He
Yeah,
did not care. Where
no,
you had Captain Smooth, Everts, and then you had Everts. There was just like a bull in a china shop.
literally that's it, a ball in a china shop. I just remember watching it on the DVDs. I never went to a race, like I mentioned earlier, so it was always the Duke DVDs, and I just used to watch them over and over and over as a kid. And the battles were the main battle at the front was Tortelli and Everts, and I remember it coming down to the final race of the year, and it must have been a pretty heated rivalry throughout the bar banging that they'd done. I can imagine in the pits they can't have got along well with how hard they were hitting each other and teeing each other up. And back then the tracks allowed for much more. Especially in Europe, they were like blue grooves. So they would go from outside to inside, stand each other up. They'd like switch back on each other 3 or 4 times in 3 or 4 corners. Like it would just be bang, bang, bang. Whereas now, obviously, it's like rut cross where you don't, like if you was to come over 2 ruts and get someone, they're like, what's he done? Whereas there was very little ruts in the harder pack, like European tracks. So the battles used to be insane. I always remember that one. And that's the one that always stands out to me as a kid from that era, and probably any era. If I was to think about a true battle other than Stuart Carmichael, it would be that battle.
I agree. Did Caroli ever have any rivalries like back in his day?
Caroli,
Did anyone ever ruffle him up or not really? I can't remember.
with Caroli, it was more, he went obviously so long that he's had so many different battles. Like in the 250 class, you had Rattray that was there with Tyler a little bit, but they always got on quite well.
Yeah.
And then one year with me and Caroli, we got into the FIM office a couple of times for hitting each other, but it was never really a rivalry. I was only really battling with him for 1 season. Then he went up to MX1. And again, I think first year, no, he went up. Everts had retired. So it was Clement Lascelles that Tony was battling with. And then you obviously had the Paulins, and then even through Geyser, Hurlins, when Jeffrey first come up, Hurlins and Caroli were sort of rivals. And then even to Prado, one year they was rivals and didn't get along that well, even as teammates, if I remember correctly. So he's gone through so many, but I don't remember one that was really like a bitter rivalry. I think he got on with everyone. He was such a nice person, and people respected him that much that they didn't actually go into that much of like, we hate him, we want to beat him.
But he did pull a few nasty moves on a few blokes. I remember. I can't actually remember exactly, but I remember he did clean out some people.
Yeah, he wasn't scared to ruffle feathers. I think he's just a racer. And he would just literally, it was mad being teammates with him, how he's off the bike, seeing what he'd done, to then how he turned up and even spoke on a race day. It wasn't that he was always like, this bloke is zoned in, he's the most confident. He was always so relaxed throughout the day. He would talk to you as if you was talking to someone that was going to go get like 20th place a little bit. Like he would be, what do you think to the track? Oh, that section's a little bit sketchy. Oh, I don't really feel good there. And then he would put his helmet on and go 1-1, and just like, thought you didn't feel good around there, mate. Like, there's me just wobbling about, and then he'd just blast out a 1-1.
Yeah, he just trusted himself so much then. Because didn't you see during the weekend that he'd be riding at like a slower pace, just kind of, I don't know, doing whatever he was doing, just riding at 70% and then whack it up on the weekends, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It was interesting going to ride with them for the team, because obviously I went and done the 1 year with DeCarli, and Caroli went through with DeCarli for a long time. They're like family, or they are family pretty much, from very, very young age, from 15 all the way till now. He only lives 5 minutes up the road, and the team manager now, David A's like his brother. But he would listen so much to DeCarli and everything that he said. Even Tony, after being, at the time I went to the team, I think he was already an 8-time world champion. And it was mad that how much he would trust Claudio, and to the point where it's like, what are we doing today? Claudio would say, okay, it's 1 hour at 70%. Tony would do his 1 hour at 70%. See you later, go get his lunch, very relaxed, go home. And then he'd do a little run. It was very structured, and he obviously trusted everything that he'd done and believed in himself come the weekend. But Claudio was very much about the riding. They would ride quite often through the week. And they would do a lot of different things. It wasn't always just blast out your motos, work on a section. It was quite like structured. It didn't seem that structured. It seemed like Claudio would come up with it in his head that morning while sitting at the desk. Tony must have believed in everything that he'd done, and he just,
right. I mean,
they would have a little discussion, yeah or no. And,
yeah.
Yeah, and obviously knew what worked. He knew how Claudio worked. Claudio knew how he worked.
And it worked for him. It worked for him very well. So
if we move on from that, who do you think the next big rivalry will be between? Do you think it will actually become a thing between Jett and Deegan, or do you think it will sort of not become to that level of those guys that we talked about?
I think that could definitely potentially be a rivalry. It depends really if, Hayden's going to take a year to adjust to the big bike. It's a whole different ball game. We've seen him race it a couple weeks ago. I definitely think if Hayden gets to Jett's level, I think for sure there's going to be a rivalry. He's going to ruffle some feathers, and Jett's not afraid either. So it's definitely something we can look forward to. Yeah, there was a small rivalry between Juju and Deegan this year in Supercross, but it wasn't much. But I tell you what, it does make it exciting as a fan if there's something. If two guys that hate each other in the racing against each other, like, it just makes it exciting, So I hope there's more rivalries out there. It's good for the sport, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's going to be interesting when Deegs goes to the 450 full time. Obviously, he's very talented and a good racer, and Jett's just peak top level. And we'll see if Hayden can get to that level. It'll be interesting.
I think there's not as many rivalries now as people. Even for me, it would be, wouldn't want to get into it too much because the fans go that nuts. Because like you said, it makes it so good for a fan to watch. If there is that rivalry, like, you almost pick a side and you're so excited to watch the races. But then the backlash that comes from the comments of the people that's on Matey's side, his rivalry, this side, I think the riders nowadays sort of shy away from it purely because they don't mind on track having a bit of a rivalry, like it's just you and Matey, but then off track, there's so much noise from the comments and this, that it's quite hard to then like focus on the job in hand, which is turning up and racing. So I think people the majority shy away from that rivalry because they just want to be like, look, I don't mind a battle, but I don't want the ag midweek not being able to go on my phone for the people that are getting too caught up in it.
It can be a big distraction for sure in this day and age. Obviously back in the day, it wasn't that bad because you'd handle it on track, or the older school generation would handle it in the pits or whatever. But nowadays it drags on through the week, and it can drag on, and sponsors cannot get happy if the wrong thing's said. And there's just a lot that kind of maybe the general fan wouldn't actually know. Like, there's a lot more behind the scenes if there's a rivalry, like the teams, like I'm pretty sure KTM told Juju, like, hey, like, enough of the games, enough of the BS, like, go out there and just race.
Do you think they come out with that?
I think so, because I think they were throwing jabs at each other on Instagram and whatever. And don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty close with a few people. And, I just think it can be a big distraction, focus on your job. And yeah,
but I think that there is one rider that will make a rivalry and doesn't care. It's Hayden, because he just gets stuck in. He's not worried. He thrives off it. So that outside noise, he can just, with all his vlogs coming up through and the YouTube, I think he's one that it doesn't distract him from. He just thinks, let's go. Like, I'm ready.
And that's something that, he's young as well, right? And that's something that I think that's almost a gift to have that, like, to not care to not care what people think is huge. And I'll give myself that. I'm pretty good at that, but don't get me wrong. There's the odd few times where people will get under my skin, 1%, but I do feel like I'm pretty good at not caring what people think. Yeah, it's just, that's a gift to have if you can fully have that, because you're not letting little stupid things bother you. You know what I mean?
I definitely think rivalries were more of a thing of the past, though, whereas the riders got stuck in more, like, lined up, wanted to go mad, like, weren't scared to bang bars, whereas now it's a lot more of a friendly place throughout the pits. Riders talking to riders being friends with riders training with riders. If you do look back in those generations that we've just talked about, riders wasn't training with riders.
No.
Whereas now, how can you have a rivalry with someone when you're turning up to the practice track to ride with them if you're at Baker's factory and you're 1, 2, and 3, like those areas we talked about with a lot of the time they were going 1, 2, and 3 and they was all riding at the same place. Whereas before it was like no one's seeing what anyone's doing with Carmichael or Stuart, and now they're training 2 miles apart or at the same track. So I think that is something that's moved. I don't know, it's just not quite there as it was.
No, I completely agree. All right, so kind of like just talking about the rivalries and everything and social media, how that plays a big impact. What do you think about social media in this day and age? Do you like it for one, or like, it was a lot different 10, 15 years ago. There wasn't cameras everywhere, and the whole social media thing's really like, it's kind of changed the game these days. So what's your thoughts on it?
Well, I think for me and you, it's quite a good thing because we're still able to have a bit of a career through social media. Whereas I think for the younger generation now, social media almost, especially in the UK, I see it a lot, whereas people don't even want to go race because they don't even want to post their results if they don't do good. So it's almost like limiting the people wanting to get further and test themselves purely because they don't want to go abroad, and then have to go quiet and do no posts. So they'd almost choose not to race and race local races and post up that they've got to win than actually test themselves, go abroad or go to those bigger races and then post something that they haven't done as well. So I believe in the whole, as a whole in the countries, it's one of the reasons why the kids aren't testing themselves. But like if we go back, I used to watch the DVDs. That's the only thing I would watch of motocross, same as anyone else, because that's all you could watch. There was no YouTube. And then it obviously progressed through little videos. And then I remember my first ever Instagram post was my last ever GP win in Germany, end of 2012. Instagram became a thing. I remember posting up a farewell picture of the track in Germany. And then I never won since. So it must be a bad thing of social media. If I didn't get Instagram, I probably would have carried on winning, I think. But no, it's just changed, hasn't it? And it can change for the better, the way things are reported. We get to see something. Yes, it's not that much big of an impact when you do see one of them pro riders because you feel like you know them from watching them so much, watching their videos. But at the same time, there's so much more access. Kids can learn so much if they choose to use it in the right way. So there's so many plus and minus. I don't feel like it's better or worse.
I think you're right. There is obviously pluses and minuses with it all, but yeah, it just depends how you use it. I mean, for us, like you said, we wouldn't probably still be even riding our dirt bikes if it wasn't for social media, because like not only for myself right now, I have to put in the results, I'm still going out there and winning my races overseas and stuff like that, which is a big help. But sponsors like Rockstar Energy and things like that, social media is a huge part of my sponsorship and quite a lot of my sponsorships. Having the followers and the outreach, that's a lot of people that are seeing their logo, their brand. But what do I prefer? I actually prefer how it was before, where there's maybe just a Facebook or something. I don't, now it's like a full-time job with social media, like sponsors, you get a contract, you have to do so many posts, it's a lot of work now, where back in the day, you get your sponsorship, slap a sticker on your helmet and off you go, thank them on the podium. Where now there's a lot more that they ask from you, which is completely fine, but there is obviously good things and bad things. But I just feel like you just have so much access to, whether it's the races, the riders, everything. Some people their whole life routine that post that much, So I think there is, yeah, it's pretty crazy how it is now, like it's a different way of living. I know kids that just go to the track, get the Instagram shot off the tabletop at Pala or the step up, crack a few whips and go home. Like, they're not really enjoying riding their bike. They're doing it for the clout, as they say, and then that's a lot of people. That's how it is now. They just want to get the sick shot and then go read their comments on how sick it was, instead of actually rewind 20 years ago. They would go to the track for the enjoyment of riding their bike and having a laugh with the boys at the track, like how my dad was when he was at the track. You'd be riding and having good banter in the pits, and it was really like a day out. And it's not a bad thing, but it's just today's world. They do a wheelie through the pits, get that clip, do a whip over the tabletop, do a little Axel Hodges nose wheelie. Like, that's just how it is now, Not for everyone, but for some kids,
Right, we're going to round this up then with some quick fire questions and see whether you agree with it or disagree with it, Dean. You ready?
I'm ready.
Fuel injection makes bikes too easy. Agree or disagree?
I'm just going to disagree, because when the bikes weren't fuel injected, they bogged and it was more of a danger factor. So the bikes are a lot better now in the pockets of the jumps, no bog. So disagree.
Some two-strokes out there, though, say they don't like the fuel injection. They're back on the normal ones. But I agree. The last thing I would want is a bike to bog on the face of a jump. So easy or not, I'm going with I disagree. I'd much prefer a bike without fuel injection. Next one, setup matters more than rider skill. Agree or disagree?
Disagree, because I think good riding skill or smart riding can overcome, a bad setup more than vice versa. So I'm going to have to disagree on that.
No, I'll agree with you. I think it matters more so at the very top. It matters at a low level as well with like general setup. Like if someone's bars are rolled so far forward or their forks are so far through and their shocks well out, then that matters for the basics. But then at the very top, obviously you get to a point where the skill overcomes bad bike setup 9 times out of 10. But obviously at the very, very pinnacle, if you've got 2 riders, then setup comes into it. But no, put a good rider on a bad bike and they're still going to go fast. Aggressive riding is better than smart, smooth riding.
Disagree. Got to be nice and smooth. Aggressive riding is good for certain times on the track or whatever, but it's definitely not better than smart riding. Smart riding is just takes the cake for sure. What about you?
You going to tell that to Ricky Carmichael or not?
He's still smarter than you think. Hey, he was aggressive, but he said he was a smart boy winning all those championships.
Yeah, no, I agree. He was aggressive, but he knew what he was doing. I do think it's changed though over the years and how the bikes have changed. I believe riding style has changed. Also, the way tracks have
even
developed
just to
now.
go back to that. Jett Lawrence is a smart rider, right? And then Eli Tomac is an aggressive rider. So you got 2 of the best. But if I'm going to pick one, I'm going to pick smart riding.
No, I agree.
Even though I am more of an aggressive rider myself, but I'd like to try and be more of that smart rider where I think you're a bit of a smart rider, but you're also a bit aggressive too. So I don't know. But
Yeah.
I'm going with I'll disagree on that.
I would choose smart riding, but both can work. And I see that as the way the bikes have progressed over the past years, smooth riding is more beneficial. You need to practice in the rain. Agree or disagree?
That's another tough one.
When was the last time you practiced in the rain?
Today, funny enough, rained while I was doing a bowl. But it depends what kind of rain we're talking, right? If I'm just gonna say agree, because I don't think you can't be if you're trying to become a good rider, you can't just become a fair weather rider when the conditions are always good. So I'm gonna have to say agree, because you need to learn how to ride in all conditions, but don't absolutely destroy your bike if it's absolutely bogging conditions. You kind of have to be smart about it too.
I listened to a interview the other week with Ricky Carmichael, and he said he never practiced in the rain.
I did see that as well. I did see that.
I mean, I just
And
can't believe that.
And he lapped the whole field in the mud.
And he lapped the whole field in the mud and he's good in any condition that was put in front of him, but he lapped the whole field in the rain at a AMA motocross professional event. And yet he said he never practiced in the rain. Whether I believe it or not, I would have thought he would be out there rain or shine. But he said there was too much to lose practicing in the rain compared to what he could gain at that point in his career. But I'm sure as a kid, he must have been out in the rain.
Right.
I used to ride a lot in the rain.
Yeah.
In England, if you're not in the rain, in the mud, you're not riding. So you don't really have a choice. I would say you do need to ride in the rain if you want to be a world champion 100% in Europe, maybe not a Supercross champion in America. I'm sure that if you're good enough to ride and win anyway, a little bit of rain, you're still going to have the skill to carry on. So Supercross may be different, but definitely in the World Championships, you need to be out there riding in the rain, yes. Off-track antics are good for the sport or not? Which I would imagine to open up the question a little bit easier, like beef, bit of like back and forth between the riders, bit of like...
Are they good for the sport?
Argy-bargy. Is it good for the sport?
I agree. I think it is. Tunes more eyes. Everyone gets excited about something. As long as we're not involved, I'm all for it.
I agree. It's very good for the sport because as a fan, I get like hyped up for it when there's a bit of beef, but I wouldn't want to be in that situation anymore. But yeah, as a viewer to watch it, I think it's very good for the sport. Tracks are getting too safe and too easy. Agree or disagree?
Disagree. I think the tracks are still very tough. You can have an easy track, but if you have style that's not easy, for instance, Supercross, if you're on a track like Seattle, and even if it's an easy track layout, it's still going to get very challenging with the ruts and the kickers and, so I just disagree with that because I haven't really rode tracks that are that safe to be honest.
What, you've never gone out there and thought, this is much too safe, I want more risk?
Yeah. Definitely not, Tom. Definitely not.
In terms of the World Championship tracks, obviously I'm over this side of the pond, Dean's the other side. I mean, Supercross tracks as a whole, when you look at them to watch to when you ride them, is a big, big difference, especially as a rider like myself that doesn't ride a lot. Even the arena cross in the UK, Dean goes out there first lap and he'll go triple, quad, or triple, and it will take me till second session to even feel like I've got the confidence to seat bounce one of those. So I think the riders are so good, and that's a problem, and the bikes are so good that it makes it look a lot easier than what it is. And then the risk that can still go wrong at that level when they're performing these stunts, going over 4 jumps at a time, is very, very high. So to make it more technical, and like Dean says, how much they break down now compared to the past adds that element to it as well. So you're in, it's like a catch-22 situation. You can make it steeper and slower. Is that a good thing? Or you can make it like it is now, doing the big jumps, which is the risk that you're jumping so far. I think in Europe, it's definitely not too easy, the tracks. Actually, they're probably rutty and more technical than ever in America. As Dean just said, it's not easy. So disagree.
All right, everyone. That is episode 7 of Against the Rut. I surely enjoyed that. Maybe it's because Billy wasn't here. I'm just joking. But
no, I'm not. I actually enjoyed the flow much better.
You did enjoy that.
Yeah, it was quite nice. It was actually
like
easy,
old
wasn't
times, Tom. Just me and you. It was like old times.
Yeah, it was good.
Anyways,
no enduro chat.
that we have no clue about. All right, everyone. Keep the comments coming. Make sure you subscribe. Give us a like. Thank you all for watching and tuning in and listening to me and Tom ramble on. We really appreciate you watching, and catch us on episode 8 next week. Cheers.
Thank you very much.